The Zephyrian Empire had ruled the galaxy for over 3,000 years. Their crystalline ships, powered by harvested stellar energy, had swept across star systems like a cosmic plague. Worlds that submitted became mining colonies. Worlds that resisted became ash. Admiral Kethvar stood on the bridge of the flagship Times, Eternal Dominion *, his 6 arms gracefully manipulating the control interfaces, while his compound eyes studied the tactical display. Before him floated a small blue-green world, the 3rd planet in an unremarkable system the locals called Sol. "Preliminary scans complete, Admiral," reported his tactical officer, Lieutenant Zephna. Her crystalline exoskeleton caught the bridge's bioluminescent lighting as she worked. The planet shows signs of industrial civilization. Population approximately 8 billion. Their technology appears primitive. They still use chemical rockets and nuclear weapons. Kethvar's mandibles clicked in what passed for amusement among his species. Nuclear weapons? How delightfully barbaric. And their space presence? Minimal, sir. A few orbital stations, some primitive satellites. Nothing that could threaten even our scout vessels. The Admiral's 4 primary eyes focused on the planet while his secondary pair monitored the bridge activity. This would be routine. The species called themselves humans, according to intercepted communications. They seemed to be divided into numerous nation-states, constantly bickering among themselves, perfect for the Empire's standard conquest protocol. "Signal the fleet," Kethvar commanded. "Assume standard bombardment formation. We'll demonstrate our superiority, then demand surrender. If they comply quickly, we might allow 10% of their population to survive as workers." The Zephyrian fleet consisted of 200 vessels of various classes. Dreadnoughts the size of small cities, sleek destroyers that could crack continents, and countless support ships. Each vessel was a masterpiece of biotechnology, grown rather than built, their hulls alive and self-repairing. As the fleet moved into position, communication arrays across Earth detected the massive energy signatures approaching. Governments worldwide went into emergency sessions. The United Nations convened an unprecedented crisis meeting. Military forces across the globe went to maximum alert. Dr. Sarah Chen, director of SETI, watched the readings from her facility in California with growing horror. The energy output from those ships, it's like they're carrying pieces of stars. In the Pentagon, General Marcus Webb studied satellite imagery of the approaching fleet. "How long until they reach effective weapons range?" "Approximately 6 hours, sir," replied his aide. "Should we attempt communication?" Webb's jaw tightened. "Patch me through to all global military commands, and get me a line to the Secretary General." Meanwhile, aboard the Times Eternal Dominion *, Kethvar received reports from his subordinates. "Sir, we're detecting increased electromagnetic activity from the planet's surface. They appear to be mobilizing their military forces." "Let them," the Admiral replied dismissively. "Their primitive weapons cannot even scratch our shields. This will serve as an excellent demonstration for other worlds in this sector." But as the fleet drew closer to Earth, something unexpected began to happen. Deep beneath the surface of the planet, in facilities the Zephyrians couldn't detect, ancient systems began to activate. Humanity had spent the last 70 years preparing for this moment. Ever since the Roswell incident had provided them with their first glimpse of alien technology. Project Prometheus, humanity's most classified program, had reverse-engineered captured alien technology and combined it with human innovation. The results had been carefully hidden, waiting for the day when Earth would need to defend itself against a superior force. In underground bases across 6 continents, weapons that had never been tested in combat began their startup sequences. Particle beam arrays hidden beneath Antarctic ice sheets hummed to life. Orbital defense platforms, disguised as communication satellites, shed their false hulls to reveal devastating weapon systems. Admiral Kethvar noticed the energy readings moments before the first human weapon fired. "What is that energy signature? It's not in our database of primitive technologies." The answer came in the form of a concentrated particle beam that struck the Empire's forward scout ship. The vessel, which had survived the destruction of entire civilizations, simply ceased to exist. No explosion, no debris field, just empty space where a ship had been. On the bridge of the Times, Eternal Dominion **, every Zephyrian present fell silent. Lieutenant Zephna's mandibles clicked nervously as she recalibrated her sensors. Admiral, the Times Swift, Hunter. Times just disappeared. Impossible, Kethvar hissed. Run full diagnostics on all sensor arrays. Before the diagnostics could complete, another beam lanced out from Earth's surface. This one struck a destroyer, and the ship's biohull began to dissolve at the molecular level. The dying vessel's screams, for Zephyrian ships were truly alive, echoed through the fleet's neural network. All ships, evasive maneuvers, Kethvar commanded. But it was too late. Humanity had been tracking the fleet since it entered the solar system. Every shot was perfectly calculated. From hidden facilities on Luna, railgun projectiles accelerated to significant fractions of light speed. Each projectile carried a fusion warhead designed by human physicists who had studied alien shield frequencies for decades. The first salvo took out 12 more ships before the Zephyrians could even identify the launch points. In the depths of the Pacific Ocean, humanity's most ambitious project revealed itself. The USS Times Leviathan *, a submarine the size of a battleship, rose from the Mariana Trench. Its hull was made from materials that didn't exist in nature, created in humanity's most secret laboratories. As it breached the surface, it fired a weapon that tore through space itself, creating a rift that swallowed 3 Zephyrian cruisers. Admiral Kethvar watched his fleet being systematically destroyed by what he had assumed were primitives. How is this possible? Our intelligence indicated they were centuries behind us technologically. His communications officer's voice trembled. Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the planet's surface. It's directed specifically at you. The main viewer flickered to life, showing a human in military uniform standing in what appeared to be an underground command center. Behind him, screens showed the ongoing battle and the steady destruction of the Zephyrian fleet. I am General Marcus Webb of the United Earth Defense Force, the human said calmly. You came here expecting to find defenseless primitives. You were wrong. Kethvar's compound eyes fixed on the human's image. Impossible. Our scouts surveyed this system. You had no advanced technology. Webb smiled grimly. We've had visitors before. Some of them didn't leave voluntarily. We've been preparing for this day since 1947. Every crashed ship, every captured piece of technology, every failed invasion attempt, we learned from all of it. The tactical display showed another wave of human weapons firing. This salvo was different. Instead of destroying ships outright, it seemed to disable them. Zephyrian vessels found their biohulls paralyzed, their weapons offline, their crews trapped inside their own ships. We could have destroyed your entire fleet already, Webb continued, but we want some of you to survive, to carry a message back to your empire. Kethvar's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation. What message? Tell your empire that Earth is not just another world to be conquered. We are humanity. And we do not yield to anyone. Your empire has crushed 1,000 worlds, enslaved countless species, and spread terror across the galaxy. Webb's eyes hardened. You struck Earth first. Now we're coming for you. As if to emphasize the point, another human weapon fired from somewhere near Earth's moon. This one was clearly a demonstration shot. It vaporized an asteroid in the distance, showing destructive power that made even Zephyrian weapons look primitive. You have 1 hour to gather your surviving ships and retreat beyond the edge of this solar system, Webb declared. Any vessel that remains after that time will be destroyed. And Admiral Kethvar? The Zephyrian commander's primary eyes focused entirely on the human's image. Tell your emperor that humanity remembers every world your empire has destroyed. We know about Kepler 442b, where you turned a garden world into glass. We know about the Altair colonies, where you enslaved an entire species. We know about all of it. Webb leaned forward. And we're coming to collect the debt. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge of the Times Eternal Dominion Times in stunned silence. Around them, the remains of the once mighty Zephyrian fleet struggled to regroup. Of the 200 ships that had arrived to conquer Earth, fewer than 50 remained functional. Admiral Kethvar stared at the blue-green world that had just handed the Empire its first defeat in 3 millennia. For the first time in his long military career, he experienced something he had never felt before. Fear. Not just fear of death or defeat, but fear of what these humans might do when they kept their promise to come for the Empire. As he gave the order to retreat, Kethvar wondered if the Zephyrian Empire had just awakened something far more dangerous than they could ever imagine. The news of Admiral Kethvar's defeat reached the Zephyrian homeworld of Zenthari 3 months later. The crystalline spires of the capital city hummed with agitation as the Empire's ruling council convened an emergency session. Emperor Vex Thul, whose reign had seen the conquest of over 200 star systems, listened to Kethvar's report with growing disbelief. "You claim that primitives destroyed 75% of your fleet?" The Emperor's voice resonated through the council chamber like the grinding of tectonic plates. His massive form, standing nearly 4 meters tall, dwarfed even the other Zephyrians present. Kethvar's compound eyes remained fixed on the floor. "They were not primitives, Your Imperial Majesty. Their technology surpassed our own in several key areas. Their weapons penetrated our shields, as if they were not there." "Impossible," hissed High Strategist Mordak from his position at the Emperor's right. "No species has ever matched Zephyrian military technology. The humans must have had assistance." "From whom?" Kethvar asked bitterly. "Every species we have encountered has either submitted or been destroyed. There are no allies left in this galaxy who could provide such assistance." The Emperor's 4 primary eyes studied the tactical recordings that Kethvar had brought back. The images showed human weapons firing with pinpoint accuracy, Zephyrian ships dissolving under focused energy beams, and most disturbing of all, the human general's promise of retaliation. "This changes nothing," declared War Minister Zephul. "We will simply send a larger fleet. The full might of the Imperial Navy will reduce their world to cosmic dust." But even as the Council debated their response, humanity was already moving. In the 3 months since the Battle of Earth, human ships had been launching from hidden facilities across the solar system. Not the primitive chemical rockets that the Zephyrians had observed, but vessels built with technology reverse-engineered and improved upon from decades of alien encounters. The UEFS times Prometheus times was the first of humanity's new generation of warships. Built inside a hollowed-out asteroid beyond Pluto's orbit, it was invisible to conventional sensors and armed with weapons that existed nowhere else in the galaxy. Captain Elena Vasquez stood on its bridge, watching as her ship and 12 others like it prepared to jump to hyperspace. "All ships report ready for jump," announced her tactical officer, Commander James Park. "Target system, Kepler 442. Vasquez nodded grimly. Kepler 442 had been one of the first systems the Zephyrians had destroyed after their expansion began. Home to a peaceful species called the Keth Ani, it had been turned into a mining operation after the population was exterminated. Intelligence gathered from captured Zephyrian vessels had revealed the location of several such systems, each one a monument to the Empire's cruelty. "All ships, execute jump," Vasquez commanded. The human fleet vanished from normal space, traveling through hyperspace corridors that the Zephyrians believed only they knew how to navigate. But humanity's scientists had cracked the secrets of faster-than-light travel by studying alien wrecks for decades. Meanwhile, on the Zephyrian mining world that had once been Kepler 442b, Overseer Nextau was reviewing production reports when his sensors detected energy signatures appearing at the edge of the system. His mandibles clicked in confusion as he studied the readings. "Communications. Contact the approaching vessels and determine their identity," he ordered. The response came not as a transmission, but as weapons fire. The human fleet had studied the layout of the system from captured Zephyrian data files. They knew exactly where every mining station, defense platform, and patrol ship was located. The attack was swift and precise. Human ships, using stealth technology that made them nearly invisible, struck the orbital mining platforms first. Each station was home to thousands of Zephyrian workers and their enslaved labor forces. The humans could have simply destroyed everything, but their targeting was surgical. They specifically avoided areas where slave populations were housed, while eliminating all Zephyrian military and administrative personnel. Unknown vessels, identify yourselves. Overseer Nextal's transmission finally reached the human fleet. Captain Vasquez's image appeared on screens throughout the system. This is Captain Elena Vasquez of the United Earth Defense Force. You are in violation of interstellar law through the occupation of sovereign territory and the enslavement of sentient beings. Nextal's compound eyes focused on the alien face before him. Humans? But you are from the Terran system. How did you reach this location? The same way your people have been traveling between stars for centuries, Vasquez replied coldly. With the difference being that we come as liberators, not conquerors. What followed was unlike any battle in Zephyrian military history. The human ships didn't simply destroy their enemies. They systematically dismantled the entire Imperial infrastructure in the system. Mining equipment was disabled, not destroyed. Administrative centers were captured intact. Most importantly, the slave populations were freed and offered transportation to safe worlds. The freed Kethani, a species that the Zephyrians had believed extinct, looked upon their human liberators with wonder. Their leader, an elderly female named Sith Ara, approached Captain Vasquez as the last of the Zephyrian forces surrendered. We had given up hope, Sith Ara said in accented but understandable English. The humans had learned Kethani from captured Imperial databases. For 50 years, we believed we were the last of our kind. You're not alone anymore, Vasquez assured her. Humanity has a message for every species the Empire has oppressed. The age of Zephyrian dominance is ending. But the liberation of Kepler 442 was just the beginning. Across the galaxy, 13 human task forces struck simultaneously at key Imperial positions. Each attack followed the same pattern: precise strikes against military targets, liberation of enslaved populations, and the capture of vital intelligence about Empire operations. The attack on the Rigel shipyards was particularly devastating. Commander Sarah Chen, Dr. Sarah's daughter who had followed her mother into xenotechnology research before joining the military, led a squadron of human fighters in an assault that destroyed the Empire's primary ship construction facility. The shipyards, which had been producing vessels for Imperial expansion for over a century, were reduced to scrap metal in less than 6 hours. On Vega Prime, home to the Empire's military academy, Major Tom Rodriguez led a ground assault that captured the facility intact. More importantly, they acquired the complete Imperial database of military tactics, ship designs, and strategic plans. The information revealed the locations of every Imperial base, every slave world, and every military asset in Zephyrian space. The psychological impact on the Empire was enormous. For the first time in 3 millennia, Imperial forces were retreating. Worlds that had lived under Zephyrian rule for generations began to rise up in rebellion. The Empire's reputation for invincibility, built on thousands of successful conquests, crumbled in the face of humanity's methodical campaign. Emperor Vexthul watched the reports streaming in from across his dominion with growing rage and disbelief. In a single day, humanity had dealt the Empire more damage than it had suffered in the previous 1,000 years. How many ships do they have? The Emperor demanded of his intelligence chief. Unknown, Your Majesty. The official replied nervously. Their vessels appear from nowhere, strike with overwhelming force, then vanish before our reinforcements can arrive. They seem to possess stealth technology superior to our own. And their numbers? Estimates vary wildly. Some reports suggest hundreds of ships, others indicate thousands. They're coordinating attacks across dozens of systems simultaneously. High Strategist Mordak studied the tactical displays showing the Empire's losses. Your Majesty, I believe we are facing a completely new form of warfare. The humans are not fighting for conquest. They're fighting for liberation. Every species they free becomes a potential ally. The truth of this statement became apparent when intercepted communications revealed that freed slave species were providing intelligence and even volunteers to the human forces. The galaxy, which had been unified under Zephyrian rule through fear, was rapidly fracturing as world after world declared independence. Emperor Vexthul's rage finally boiled over. His massive fist shattered the crystalline table before him. "Assemble the Grand Fleet," he commanded. "Every available ship, every warrior, every weapon in the Empire. We will crush these humans and their allies so completely that no species will ever again dare to challenge Zephyrian supremacy." War Minister Zephul hesitated. "Your Majesty, the Grand Fleet hasn't been assembled in over 1,000 years. It will take time to recall ships from across the Empire." One. "Then do it quickly," the Emperor snarled. "And send a message to every Imperial governor. Any world that aids the humans will be sterilized. Any species that rebels will be exterminated. It is time to remind the galaxy why they fear the Empire." But even as the Emperor issued his commands, another human message was being broadcast to every inhabited world in the galaxy. This time, it was not General Webb who appeared on screens, but President Chen, Dr. Sarah Chen, who had been elected as Earth's first planetary president after the victory over Kethvar's fleet. "People of the galaxy," President Chen began, her voice translated into hundreds of languages by captured Imperial translation matrices. "For too long, you have lived under the shadow of tyranny. The Zephyrian Empire has told you that resistance is futile, that their power is absolute." Behind her, images played showing the liberation of Kepler 442, the destruction of the Rigel shipyards, and the freed slave populations celebrating their newfound freedom. "They lied," Chen continued. "The Empire can be defeated. Their ships can be destroyed. Their oppression can be ended. Humanity offers you a choice that the Empire never gave: the choice to be free." The broadcast continued with detailed information on how species could contact human forces, how to organize resistance movements, and most importantly, how to defend themselves using technology that humanity was freely sharing with anyone willing to fight for their freedom. As the message spread across the galaxy, the Zephyrian Empire faced something it had never encountered before: a coordinated rebellion spanning hundreds of star systems, led by a species that fought not for conquest, but for the simple principle that no one had the right to enslave another. The war for the galaxy's freedom had truly begun. The Grand Fleet of the Zephyrian Empire assembled at the edge of their home system was a sight that would have broken the spirit of any previous enemy. Over 10,000 vessels, ranging from massive dreadnoughts to swift interceptors, filled the space around Zenthari like a metallic constellation. This was the full might of an empire that had dominated the galaxy for 3 millennia. Emperor Vex Thul stood aboard the flagship Infinite Dominion, a vessel so large it could be seen from the planet's surface as a new star. His 4 primary eyes surveyed the assembled armada with satisfaction. This force had never known defeat. It had been assembled only 3 times in Imperial history, and each time it had completely annihilated entire star nations. "The humans have won minor victories against scattered patrol fleets," the Emperor declared to his assembled admirals. "Let them face the true power of the Empire." But even as the Grand Fleet prepared to depart for Earth, humanity was already 3 steps ahead. The intelligence captured from Imperial facilities had provided more than just tactical information. It had revealed the location of Zenthari itself, the heart of Zephyrian power. In the Sol system, the largest fleet in human history was completing final preparations. Over the past 6 months, every shipyard in the solar system had been working at maximum capacity. The asteroid belt had been stripped of materials to build vessels that incorporated not just human innovation, but technology, freely shared by the dozens of species that humanity had liberated. Admiral Lisa Park, sister to Commander James Park and the youngest person ever to reach flag rank in the Earth Defense Force, stood on the bridge of the UEFS Terra's Vengeance. Around her, holographic displays showed the positions of over 15,000 human and allied ships. This was no longer just humanity's war. It had become a galaxy-wide liberation movement. "Admiral," reported her tactical officer. "All fleet groups report ready. The Kethani contingent has just completed their jump from Kepler 442. The Altarian squadrons are in position. Even the crystalline entities from the Vega system have agreed to join us." Park nodded, studying the tactical display. The crystalline entities were perhaps the most surprising allies humanity had gained. a silicon-based life form that communicated through harmonic resonance. They had been enslaved by the Zephyrians for their ability to process raw materials into pure metals. When humanity had freed them, they had revealed technology that was completely alien to both humans and Zephyrians. "What's our total force strength?" Park asked. 15,000. 412 vessels of various classes, came the reply. Plus approximately 3 million fighter craft and support vessels. The numbers were staggering, but Park knew they would need every advantage they could get. Intelligence indicated that the Zephyrian Grand Fleet outnumbered them, and each Imperial vessel was individually more powerful than most of their allied ships. "Ma'am," interrupted the communications officer, "we're receiving a priority transmission from Earth." President Chen's image appeared on the main screen. Behind her, Park could see the flags of every liberated world in the galaxy. "Admiral Park," the president began, "you are about to undertake the most important mission in human history. You carry with you not just the hopes of Earth, but the dreams of every species that has ever lived under Imperial oppression." Park straightened. "We understand the responsibility, Madam President. I know you do. But I want you to remember something else. We're not going to Zenthari to become conquerors ourselves. We're going to end the age of galactic tyranny once and for all. The Empire dies today, but we will not become what we fought to destroy." The transmission ended, and Park turned to her fleet commanders. "All ships, prepare for hyperspace jump. Target, Zenthari system." The Liberation Fleet vanished from Sol space just as long-range sensors detected the Zephyrian Grand Fleet entering hyperspace from the opposite direction. The two largest armadas in galactic history were now racing toward each other's home systems. The Zephyrians arrived at Earth first, expecting to find a world defended only by the modest forces they had encountered 6 months earlier. Instead, they found a solar system transformed into a fortress. Every planet, moon, and asteroid had been fortified. The space between worlds bristled with defensive platforms, minefields, and weapon arrays. Admiral Kethvar, who had been given command of the Grand Fleet's vanguard as a chance to redeem himself, stared at the tactical display in disbelief. "Where are their ships?" The answer came from his sensor operator. "Sir, I'm detecting massive energy signatures throughout the system, but I can't locate the source. It's as if the weapons are built into the planets themselves." They were. In the 6 months since the Empire's first attack, humanity had turned the entire solar system into a weapon. Jupiter had been converted into a massive fusion reactor that powered planet-killing energy beams. Saturn's rings had been seeded with autonomous defense drones. Even Earth's moon had been hollowed out and converted into a fortress that could withstand a direct hit from a supernova. "Begin the attack," Emperor Vexthul commanded from the bridge of the Infinite Dominion. "Destroy everything." The Grand Fleet opened fire with enough destructive power to sterilize entire star clusters. But instead of hitting defenseless targets, their weapons struck barriers of pure energy that seemed to absorb the attacks and redirect them. The humans had learned from every previous Imperial victory, studying recordings of destroyed worlds to understand exactly how Zephyrian weapons worked. What the Empire faced was not just improved technology, but a fundamental shift in military philosophy. Where the Zephyrians relied on overwhelming firepower and intimidation, humanity had developed tactics based on adaptation and intelligence. As the Grand Fleet struggled to break through Earth's defenses, the Liberation Armada emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Zenthari system. Admiral Park studied the readings of the Zephyrian homeworld with grim determination. "Tactical analysis," she ordered. "The planet is heavily fortified," replied her tactical officer. "Orbital defense platforms, planetary shields, and what appears to be the largest military installation we've ever encountered. And civilian populations? Significant. Intelligence indicates over 12 billion Zephyrians on the planet, plus approximately 2 billion enslaved beings from other species." Park's jaw tightened. This would require precision beyond anything previously attempted. "Signal all ships. We are here to liberate, not to commit genocide. Weapons free, but maintain targeting discipline. No civilian casualties." The battle for Zenthari began with humanity's newest allies taking the lead. The crystalline entities, immune to energy weapons, absorbed the Imperial defense platform's attacks while human ships targeted specific military installations. The Kethani, whose homeworld had been the first to be liberated, led the assault on the orbital shipyards, where new Imperial vessels were being constructed. On the planet's surface, something unprecedented was happening. For the first time in Imperial history, the enslaved populations of Zenthari were rising in rebellion. Armed with weapons that human infiltration teams had smuggled to the surface over the past weeks, they struck at Imperial installations from within. Emperor Vex Thul watched his capital world burn from the bridge of his flagship and realized that everything he had believed about Imperial supremacy was crumbling around him. The humans weren't just defeating his forces, they were inspiring his own slaves to rebel. "Your Majesty," reported his communications officer, "we're receiving surrender requests from 17 different sectors. Our forces are being overwhelmed." But even in defeat, Vex Thul's pride would not allow him to surrender. "Signal the planetary core facility," he ordered. "Initiate the final protocol." His staff looked at him in horror. The final protocol would destabilize Zenthari's planetary core, creating an explosion that would destroy everything in the system, including the billions of innocent beings on the planet's surface. "Your Majesty," protested High Strategist Mordak, "that will kill everyone in the system, including our own people. If the Empire cannot rule the galaxy," Vex Thul snarled, "then let the galaxy burn." But the order never reached the planetary facility. Human cyber warfare specialists, led by Commander Chen herself, had infiltrated the Imperial Command Network weeks earlier. As the Emperor's suicide command traveled through the system, it was intercepted and redirected. Instead of destroying the planet, the command activated a completely different protocol, one that humanity had secretly implanted in the Imperial systems. Every slave collar in the Empire simultaneously deactivated. Every prison door opened. Every Imperial database was copied and transmitted to human forces. On the surface of Zenthari, the enslaved populations looked up at the sky to see human ships descending not as conquerors, but as liberators. For the first time in 3 millennia, the Zephyrian Empire's victims were free. Emperor Vex Thul's final act was to activate his flagship's self-destruct system, preferring death to the humiliation of surrender. The infinite dominion disappeared in a flash of energy, taking with it the last symbol of Imperial power. Admiral Park stood on the bridge of the Terra's Vengeance, watching as Zephyrian military units across the planet laid down their arms. Many of them, she realized, seemed as relieved as their former slaves. The Empire had oppressed everyone, including its own people. "Admiral," reported her communications officer, "we're receiving a transmission from the Sol system." General Webb's face appeared on the screen, showing the Earth sky behind him. "Admiral, I'm pleased to report that the Grand Fleet has surrendered. Faced with defenses they couldn't penetrate and cut off from their homeworld, they chose to surrender, rather than die in a hopeless battle." Park smiled for the first time in months. "And their crews? Being treated according to the laws of war." "We're not the Empire, Lisa. We don't execute prisoners." As reports came in from across the galaxy, the scope of humanity's achievement became clear. In less than a year, they had not only defended themselves against galactic conquest, but had liberated hundreds of worlds and toppled an empire that had seemed invincible. But perhaps more importantly, they had shown the galaxy a different way. Where the Zephyrian Empire had ruled through fear and oppression, humanity offered something that had been absent from galactic politics for millennia: hope. President Chen's final address to the galaxy was broadcast from the United Nations building in New York, with representatives from every liberated species standing behind her. "The Zephyrian Empire is ended," she announced. "But we do not seek to replace one tyranny with another. Humanity offers the galaxy something different. A confederation of free worlds, where every species has a voice, and every individual has rights that cannot be taken away." Behind her, the representatives of dozens of species, some that hadn't seen freedom in centuries, added their voices in agreement. The crystal entities chimed their harmonic approval. The Kethani sang ancient songs of liberation. Even reformed Zephyrians, those who had chosen freedom over empire, stood with their former enemies. We came to the stars not as conquerors, but as neighbors, Chen continued. We offered our hand in friendship, and when that hand was slapped away, we showed that humanity does not yield to bullies. But today, we extend that hand again, to every species, every world, every individual who believes in freedom. The age of empire was over. The age of the Galactic Confederation had begun. Years later, historians would mark the Battle of Earth as the moment when humanity announced its presence on the galactic stage. But they would remember the liberation of Zenthari as the day when the galaxy learned what it truly meant to be free. And in the Sol system, on a small blue-green world that had once seemed insignificant, children learned the story of how their species had kept an ancient human promise, that those who struck first at the innocent would face the consequences of their actions, no matter how long it took or how far humanity had to travel to deliver justice. The galaxy was free, and humanity had shown that sometimes the smallest species could carry the biggest stick, especially when that stick was wielded in defense of those who could not defend themselves.